12 exceptionally terrifying monsters of the X-Files explored. Prepare for nightmare fuel. Thanks to this American science fiction TV show created by Chris Carter, so many people around the world are literally scared of what lies underneath their bed. After all, it is hard to discard of the legacy of the X-Files, especially when you have a lineup of 218 episodes along with 2 standalone films. Well, it has been 28 long years since its debut, but somehow this series has managed to make its presence felt both in the time that it aired as well as in the present. Straddling across 11 seasons, the X-Files was quite capable of frightening the living daylights out of the audience. So in today's video, we are going to explore 12 of the most terrifying creatures of the X-Files. We dare you to sleep tonight without the lights on.
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
No! Wait! Wait! What are you doing?
Wayne Weinsider. How does the idea of a demon that has the power to appear to his victims as an intimidating, sinister figure with blazing red eyes sound to you? Well, that is Wayne Weinsider in this demon form. Weinsider happens to be one of the many synonyms of a very supreme demon, in all probability a horned one known as Velis, with an ability to simply suck out the soul of innocent victims. But what is odd is the fact that this demon craves for a regular human child and a normal family. It is this particular need of his that brought about the extermination of a lot of women's lives and prenatal babies. Having appeared in the 7th episode of the 6th season, Terms of Endearment, the earliest trace of this demon in his usage of the identity of Ivan Velis, born in Czechoslovakia in the year 1956. While he was addressed as Ivan, he had married 2 women, Giselle and Helga Velis, both of whom were eventually killed by him while they were bearing his children. Wondering why? Well, they had started to show signs of an inevitable demonic appearance. As years passed by, the demon went under further stage names of Bud Hasselhoff and Gordy Bottano before taking the name of Wayne Weinsider. The portrayal of Bruce Campbell as Weinsider makes him all the more terrifying and leaves a lasting impression of the whole series. Watching him as a bigamous demon impregnating his wives and the realization that his wives are bearing demonic children instead of the human offspring that he so badly desires is something that you just cannot miss out on. Mark our words when we say that Wayne Weinsider is scary enough to keep you up all night and haunt the very soul of yours. Ghoulie. The 5th episode of the 11th season follows the narrative of a pair of high school girls who do not know each other and are drawn to a decommissioned ship to pacify the Ghoulie. The creature, which looks more like a Slenderman creepypasta monster, sends both the girls into panic mode with just his appearance, and they almost kill each other. What is revealed later is that Ghoulie happens to be a teenage boy called Jackson Van de Kamp, who has the power to make anyone see what he wants them to see.
Girl, you attacked each other. You saw what I projected into your head.
Now, imagine the terror. You are confronted by your worst nightmare, and nightmares don't really have a limit, do they? Trust us when they say that it is not a pleasant sight. Coming back to the story, although Jackson's intentions were twisted, this was all supposed to be a prank. Also, he turned out to be the son of that agent Dana Scully had given up for adoption 17 years ago. Ghoulie indisputably happens to be a stellar creature feature episode that just cannot be missed out on. The titular monster is still capable of running shivers down our spines, but you will have to see it to believe it. The Insect Monster. While it is true that the X-Files did inflict us on a fair share of the scariest monsters that have ever existed, there were some creatures who were staggeringly petrifying. The insect monster definitely tops that list. This gigantic bug appears in the 19th episode of the 5th season, fully ado, and in its human disguise, it happens to be Greg Pincus, the CEO of the Vinyl Right Corporation. One of the abilities of this monster is that it does not always show its true form. Instead, it appears human to most witnesses. But what is genuinely creepy is that this insect monster loves biting gullible humans, which eventually turns the victims into a personal zombie.
Nothing to it.
That is precisely how Pincus infected his workers, one by one. Furthermore, there also happens to be only a select few who are capable of seeing the actual form of the insect monster. And those people, Special Agent Mulder included, are later condemned as delusional and even deranged, with severe consequences. The severeness of the consequences vary from being strapped to a hospital bed by an enslaved nurse to having Pincus in his Cafe-esque insect form ready to infect his helpless victims. Do watch out for the insect monster, which irrefutably happens to be one of the most terrifying monsters of the X-Files franchise.
Fire! Mulder!
The Peacock Family. The Peacock Family cannot be categorized as monsters, but then again, you might not want to agree with us after you take a look at them. The second episode of the 4th season, Home, happens to be so graphically violent and disturbing that believe us when we tell you that it actually reviewed a viewer discretion warning. So, one can truly imagine the amount of gore and horror that this particular entry has on display. The peacocks tend to be inbred deformed mutants who have become unrestrained and vicious over the years. Residing on the same patch of land generations after generations, the peacocks don't even have electricity or running water. They tend to grow their own food and even slaughter their own meat. Mrs. Peacock, who otherwise lives under the bed on a sled, has several of her teeth and limbs missing following a terrible tragic accident that took away the life of her husband. To keep the peacock bloodline active, she has also engaged herself in numerous incestual activities with her very own children, Edmund, George, and Sherman. This active inbreeding has crossed every boundary, so much so that now that there are mostly tumors and birth defects. After all, can anything be regarded as worse than copulating with your own mother? It is only when Agents Scully and Mulder arrive to probe deeper into a strange case about a newborn child being buried alive in a shallow grave that the duo manages to draw the attention of the Peacock family. As far as the family is concerned, they would not even think twice before killing anyone who dares to intrude on their privacy. No wonder the Peacock family holds its place as one of the most scariest and most terrifying villains in X-File history. The Uber Muncher is a demon that lives underground and is mostly summoned by humans to kill people that they want to get rid of. But what is even more frightening is the fact that the Uber Muncher happens to be a tulpa. In other words, a form of thought that will somehow take life and become a physical reality. A tulpa will eventually behave like it is real. It can walk, talk, and even interact with physical things and do literally whatever it wishes to. As a result, the tulpa can be pretty violent and malicious in terms of its nature. Having appeared in the 15th episode of the 6th season, Arcadia, the Uber Muncher is summoned by Gene Gogolok, the mastermind of a planned community, to kill residents who fail to obey the rules of the neighborhood. You just cannot miss out on how Gogolok faces his own death in the hands of the very own creature that he summoned in the first place. The Flukeman. The Flukeman inarguably happens to be the most iconic X-Files monster of all time, leaving a lasting impression courtesy of its gruesome appearance. This cross between a human and a parasitic flukeworm was initially born in a developing soup of radioactive sewage. After making its way to the sewers of New Jersey, it has killed endless workers, bitten plenty of others, and transferred its larvae through its infectious bites. Let's not even forget how it even tried reproducing with Agent Ghoulie. This act definitely makes the creature score full points on the gross factor. The Flukeman is so petrifying that it was the only case in which Agent Ghoulie said she would get rid of given a chance. What is truly nightmarish is the sight of this creature. Everything from the flukeworm's mouth to the white, slimy, blotchy skin is horrifying. You may not know this, but Darren Morgan, who essays the deadly role of the Flukeman, had to wear 2 pairs of prescribed contact lenses, one layered over the other. While one of the pairs was used for the color, the other was to put on top to create a more of a milky look. Like other flukes or flatworms, the Flukeman was capable of spontaneous regeneration, something that definitely makes this creature more icky. Also, it was strong enough to drag its victims underwater along with it. Do watch out for the second episode of the second season, The Host, where the Flukeman not only lives up to its name, but also does things that one cannot even imagine to think of. Tombs. The most frightening monsters are often those who look human on the outside. Same goes for Eugene Victor Toombs, who appears just like an average Joe, but in actuality is a mutant serial killer with the ability to stretch and elongate his body. The monstrous Toombs has been brutally killing people and feeding on their lives for about a century now. He also has an unbelievable low metabolic rate, something that lets him slip into hibernation. He's inactive for a period of 30 years in between his kills. The fact that he can squeeze anywhere makes it all the more difficult to track him down. Also, we will never use the conventional points of entry when he is hunting down his targets in their very homes. Remember the particular scene where Toombs is shown climbing down a chimney to enter one of the victims' houses? It's bound to give you chills right away. Let's not forget his hibernation nest, something that he has created using newspaper scrapings and his very own gooey bile. That's Toombs ticking all the terror boxes. No wonder this terrifying monster manages to appear in a sequel episode in the first season itself. There is no denying his popularity to date. Leonard Betts. Meet Leonard Betts, who has the exceptional skill of regenerating literally any part of his body. When we say any part of his body, we are particularly referring to his decapitated head. Appearing in the titular 12th episode of the 4th season, the character of Leonard Betts needs to consume cancer in order to survive. The episode also marks a shocking revelation that not even Ghoulie was initially aware of. Addressing to all the X-Files fans out there, how can one not remember Betts' famous dialogue to Ghoulie? "You got something I need," is one of the major highlights in the entire episode and works in favor of the spine-chilling grisly horror episode. The entire concept of a monster feasting on something as uncurable as cancer takes the writing several notches higher and gives it an all-new definition. Also, one may not know this, but this particular entry was the highest-rated episode in the show's original 9-season run. Beggar Man, the 10th episode of the 8th season. Badla puts stress on the fact that size is not everything. Our focus is on the Beggar Man, who even in a tiny form has slaughtered his victims in the most gruesome manner imaginable. To begin with, the tiny Indian mystic will kill somebody and then hide inside the stomach of the deceased victim. Yes, you heard it right. But that's not all. He will go to the extent of even making it look like the person is still alive and control his victims from inside till he finds another new body to reside in. The idea of the serial killer small enough to actually hide inside a dead body can freakishly be frightening. Also, there is something unsettling about the way that the Beggar Man literally pulls himself along with the help of a wooden cart and those annoying squeaky wheels. One has to see it to get that feeling. Rob Roberts. When it comes to Rob Roberts, he appeared to be working as a fast food restaurant employee. But then he has this one tiny problem, his insatiable hunger for human brains. Well, this brings us to the who he really is. Adorning a human costume during the day, Roberts in his true form is some kind of a mutant humanoid creature with no hair, no ears, hardly a nose, a pair of soulless black eyes, and razor-sharp teeth. While it is true that this predatory beast does his best to ignore his biological urges, God forbid if and when he cannot. The sight of his fatally sharp, proboscis tongue draining the brains out of the skull of his victims is not a pretty view. Also, the third episode of the 7th season, Hungry, appears to be quite unique of the simple fact that the entire narrative has been told from the monster's perspective. A monster who just cannot keep a check on his appetite. So do not be appalled when you see Agent Scully and Mulder appearing as enemies and trying to stop Roberts from feeding further. Trust us, they are doing the right thing. Dream demon, Tippet. This deranged cult leader happens to be a serial killer, one that is quite capable of manipulating people in their dreams to conduct real murders. Making a grand entrance in the 7th episode of the 8th season, via Negativa, Anthony Tippet gives evil an all-new definition. The narrative focuses on how Scully takes a break from her hectic schedule to deal with the primary stages of her pregnancy, and that leads to Doggett and Skinner working together, probing deeper into the furtive killing spree of a religious cult leader who slays his victims in their sleep. Who can forget the epic climax where Tippet successfully manages to possess Doggett and almost murders Scully with an axe? We are very serious when we say that Tippet is someone we want absolutely nothing to do with. No wonder. This real-life demon haunts our dreams to this day, even without looking like some terrestrial monster to begin with. Watch out for this one.
I gave them what they wanted. They gave me what I needed.
Virgil Incanto. Where does one even begin to start talking about this sociopath? Meet Virgil Incanto, also known as Vapyr, because of this unique ability to consume human flesh, or in other words, human fat. Incanto was deficient of the enzymes that were needed to generate indispensable fatty acids. To continue living, he would regurgitate a phospholipase containing slime to digest the body fat of his victims. But Incanto had his preferences. He wouldn't just go after anybody. He was someone who would carefully choose his victims at the online chat rooms using the name Too Shy, because that's where heavier women, according to him, would go in the first place. The fact that these women had more fat on their bodies made them Incanto's ideal choice. But what's even more terrifying is that he genuinely thought that with each murder, he was actually helping out his victims, and he barely had any guilt on display for what he was doing. Well, Virgil Incanto did meet his deserving fate when he died in prison due to the lack of oil and fat in his diet, and we couldn't be happier. If you want to dig deeper about Vapyr, do give the 6th episode of the 3rd season, Too Shy, a definite watch.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.